All right. Good afternoon. I am so fortunate to borrow another legacy leader's time to be here, to be able to just fellowship, to get to know another one of my chapter sorors. I'm so proud to say that, who is just doing a lot in her community, a lot with her family, a lot with her job to really make the world a better place and to just serve, whether it's in her church family, whether it's in her sorority. I admire Dr. April Kidd for her resilience, for her brilliance, for her beauty, and for her just openness. And so I want to hear about your leadership. I want to learn how you went from being a child to where you are now, and kind of like reflect and share your background and experiences that developed Dr. Kidd.
Well, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeneen, for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful opportunity and also to be considered a legacy leader. So thank you so very much. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Well, to share with you just a little bit about me, as a child, well, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, grew up in the state of Alabama. I grew up with my grandparents after my mother unfortunately passed away of breast cancer when I was 3 years old. So she was 36 when she passed away of breast cancer. So I went to go live with my grandparents down in Alabama, and just phenomenal, phenomenal people. They really, I think from probably the age of four or five, I started living with them, and they really guided me along the way, put education first, supported me in every single endeavor, was really my advocate in light of everything. So along that way and on that path, my grandparents really, giving me the light of wisdom, and really instilling within me that I can do all things that I set my mind to. And with that, I went through, elementary school, high school, and in an area of Alabama called the Black Belt. And the reason it's called the Black Belt on the western part of the state is because of the black soil that's there. But it was in a the area itself was in a very poor part of the state of Alabama called Forkland, Alabama. You can go away and see how small it is. A very, very small town. We don't even have a light. But with that, along the way, my grandparents, as I said, was really that beacon of light. And anything particularly educational that I wanted to do, they encouraged me to do it, supported me to do that. So when we didn't have junior high back then. We had, elementary school was first through sixth, and then high school was 7 through 12. So actually, when I was in high school, what those today would call junior high, I was always just really always looking out for any opportunities to excel, whether that go try this, go try that, meaning educational opportunities. So I would say from junior high all the way up, I was at perhaps maybe a summer program for 2 weeks, or at a program that was really just educationally fulfilling for me. I went to the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa several summers for various different programs, Stillman College for a program, Auburn University for a program in one summer. And all of those different experiences truly helped me to be the person that I am. And it enlightened me, it broadened my horizons. To really be in an environment outside of my culture, to be quite honest with you, because the high school that I went to and the elementary school was historically Black. It was a entirely Black school system. So with those particular experiences, it helped to mold me to who I am. And one experience in high school, one of my grandmother's, her niece's husband worked at the high school and was over ROTC. And me, I was fast tracking, if you will. I ended up being salutatorian for my class. And my senior year, I think it was, either junior or senior year, he said, I think you should apply for ROTC. And I was like, what? I was not thinking military whatsoever. It was the furthest thing from my mind.
I can understand.
Furthest thing from my mind. And I said, okay, I'll apply. He really encouraged me. And I had not taken ROTC at all until my last year. That was because he encouraged me. Didn't know the rank structure or how anything worked. And I was wondering why I was in charge of everybody. He put me like the main one, like the battalion commander. And I don't know if that was on purpose or what.
Wow.
And
Wow.
in high school, this was in high school, I applied for the ROTC scholarship, ended up getting it. And of course, I applied for various academic scholarships as well. I got those too. So went off to University of Alabama in Birmingham, and the various programs, many of the various programs I was involved in high school was all pre-med focused. So my original intent was to be a physician, I was pre-med. And so I arrived at the University of Alabama and in Birmingham, UAB, and had just a wealth of various opportunities and experiences that really enlightened my life as well. And that's where I pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in spring of 1993, became an RA, had academic scholarship, ROTC scholarship. So nevertheless, I did not have any college costs that I incurred. I had to pay for any student loans throughout my undergrad.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And again, that goes back to my grandparents. My grandparents really being that beacon of hope and light and encouraging me. So after completing University of Alabama in Birmingham, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army. And I was a distinguished undergrad, so really like top in the class for ROTC. My first assignment was at Fort Carson, Colorado. So as I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, I became a nurse corps officer. I changed my major, by the way, to nursing.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did. Let me backtrack a little bit. I changed my major, and for me, I was taking one particular term. I took, inorganic, organic, calculus. It's just taking so many classes. I think I burned myself out. And I didn't do as well as I thought that I should have done. So I switched my major after at least talking to my counselor and the person over my academic scholarship, because I wanted to be sure that I was able to keep my academic scholarship too. So with that, I switched my major to nursing, and still had a very, very successful college career, if you will, with that. Commissioned as part of the Army Nurse Corps, and first assignment was Fort Carson, Colorado. And that's where I had my two little ones, or young adults as they are right now. So was there working as an Army Nurse Corps officer for 5 years in Colorado. After that, transferred to Fort Riley, Kansas, and was there for 3 years as Army Nurse Corps officer. And actually there, I actually became chief of community health nurse. So I specialized, once I did come in, I specialized into community health, public health nursing. And that's really my training, my focus area, which I love, which is public health, is what we're really engaged in this pandemic. Epidemiology, public health,
Absolutely.
community health. So that's a focus
Absolutely.
area for
Yes.
me. So served in the Army for about 8 years, and then I inter-service transferred. I transferred from one service to another to the U.S. Public Health Service in 2003, and have been in the Public Health Service since then. So currently I have 24 years of service total, and now I'm a proud captain in the U.S. Public Health Service. And in between that time, went on to get my master's in business. And recently, over the past about 2.5 years ago, I was able to complete my doctorate, my PhD in nursing research. So, so my focus area now, my research anyway, is cancer prevention, is particularly in younger African American women. And that focus was really because of my mom, because she died at such a young age of breast cancer. So I really wanted to do something that focuses and specializes in that specific area, and that's what my research is in. I currently work for the Department of Homeland Security as their Chief of Medical Education and Development, and which in that role, I'm responsible for continuing education, professional development of our 1,600 staff members that are all medical personnel, healthcare personnel, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, the gamut of the various specific disciplines in the healthcare field. And my job is, and my staff, is to ensure that we're providing the continuing education for the staff, mentorship, and professional development to help them be all that they can be and help them be the best leader that they can be as well. So that is my job currently in the service. But my passion area is really helping youth in the community. And I'm able to do that, whether that be individually or through my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where we really, a big focus of what we do is helping the underserved, and particularly our at-use risk youth in the community as well.
Wow, wow, and wow. What an amazing story. What an amazing story. I hope I didn't cut you off. Were you done?
I am.
Did you want to add something? Because I want to acknowledge again that I'm traveling and
yeah, it's actually going out a little bit here and there, so I'm not hearing you if you're saying something.
All right, we're back, and I'm sorry. I was just acknowledging how amazing your story is, and how you can't see me, but I'm smiling the whole time you were talking about just the parenting that you received, the guardianship, the resilience, your promotion throughout your military career, your doctorate, your focus on education. It's just an amazing story and a real true example of how, the emphasis on education, the commitment to, excelling is present as a model for others who are watching, and the fact that your heart is in mentoring and that a lot of your experiences have shaped who you are as a person. So thank you so much for reflecting and sharing with us, and I really appreciate you. So you have a lot on your plate, and I just wonder, what has been the most present thing in your mind as we experience the coronavirus and all that's around and surrounds that? What's been the most important thing on your mind, or the most present, the thing that you thought about the most?
Okay. Well, the thing for me that I've thought about the most, particularly during this pandemic, has been our youth, truly. Our youth who have now been thrust into, virtual education. And going back to what I spoke to earlier with your first question, for me, I had those mentors. Granted, they were older and elderly, but they were mentors, and anything that had to do with me progressing with education, they were there to help promote, to encourage. And the thing that has been most pressing for me is for children who do not have that, who, even though they may have a parent or even a guardian who is there, are they encouraging that child? Are they helping to advocate for that child? So to help the child stay encouraged, because this has been a difficult time for any and everyone, to include maybe the loss of jobs by their parents or their guardians, the loss of resources, and actually to help ensure that you keep and remain resilient through these trying times. So for me, that has been the most pressing thing on my mind, is the youth and our elderly, to be quite honest with you, because I often think of our elderly, even for those who are living alone. Is anyone checking on them, calling them, going by, driving by to see them at a distance? That has been the most pressing thing, is concern for others, to be honest with you. I think first off, when this pandemic started, it's concern for self, kind of self-preservation, if you will, making sure you and your immediate family are okay. But then you really have to step back, and it's just that having that emotional intelligence to really understand what others are maybe going through. And even for our youth. And I think some may look at it maybe in the beginning as, great, we don't have to go to school. But just think about the dreams that some of them may feel are deferred, dreams deferred, or aspirations deferred. And I think I just want to give them some ray of hope, is that through this pandemic, we will get through it, they will get through it. And I just hope that this experience, it doesn't stifle their dreams and their aspirations, particularly our youth, that may be feeling, because my children are feeling that same way, my young adults, particularly my one that's in college, is that because he can't hang out with his friends like he wanted to, and anger, set in for a little bit, angry at, the world, angry at the school, because they cannot socialize as they would like, etc. So again, offering that thread of resiliency so that they can know that we're going to be okay, but keeping in mind that we do need to check on each other, check on our youth, offer assistance if needed, and just, you know what, you may be that beacon of hope in someone's life. And that's one of the things that has really been helping me get through this time, is making sure that I am, I try to be, whether or not I am, but I definitely try my best to be that beacon of light for someone. And whether that be youth, senior, or in between.
That is so awesome. I'm smiling from ear to ear as I listen to you, and I'm just so proud of, the fact that I am in Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and that we have such amazing leaders and women and servant leaderships, and those who are just selfless in their actions and their ability to seek first to help others, sometimes even before they help themselves. And it's just an amazing experience and an opportunity to serve alongside you. And I thank you for your leadership within our chapter as well. You are managing multiple committees in our chapter. And so since I've been here, I've watched you lead and been very impressed with your leadership. So thank you. Of all that you just shared and the thoughts that you have related to our youth, whether it's your own or others, what has been the hardest thing for you?
I think the hardest thing for me has been witnessing family, friends, and then people that I don't know who have lost their jobs. Which in turn sometimes leads to a loss of self well-being. So that has been the hardest, one of the hardest. And believe it or not, I do consider myself as blessed. I actually for me during this time, what has been the hardest is my kids aren't here. I mean, they're adults now, but they're not here. They are self-quarantined down. My daughter actually is in Atlanta because she graduated last year, so she's working and fully employed. My son is in school, but he chose to stay there just because there were still some of his friends that were still kind of around. So he maintained and stayed there in Atlanta at his own apartment. So I think the hardest part is not being able to be around others the way that you like. I definitely do miss the hugs. I'm a very huggy person, so I do miss that interaction. So
Yes, me too.
interaction with others. And just to give you an example, on this past weekend, I participated in a couple of parades. One to honor a high school graduate, and the other one was a birthday parade. And I saw a Sora. We always like to give hugs. I saw Sora from a distance, and we said hello. And I honestly forgot we were in a pandemic for a minute, was about to go over and give her a hug. So it clearly shows that I
Yeah.
absolutely do miss that.
Yes,
So I guess
indeed.
that has been the hardest, is seeing people go through things that you never envisioned that they would have to go through, the loss of a job, and also just not having that social connectedness with others. We are social beings, even for those who may be introverted. I think for the most part, we are all social beings, and we like to have that interaction with others. And I think that has been the hardest part. But we have to still find ways to still be resilient through all of that.
Absolutely. You raised a lot of good points, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have you here on the show today so that others may benefit from your insights, your thoughts, your experiences, and that message of hope for our youth. And we definitely are focusing on our at-risk population. So I think that some of the things you shared is really going to respond to some of the things that they may need to hear, those words of encouragement. And so one of the things that we are looking to understand and share strategies from different people is, how are you maintaining a positive spirit in spite of it all?
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, it definitely takes an act of faith, and I think that would be my number one, is my relationship with God, my relationship through my faith, is really the main thing that I think is helping me get through this time of kind of social isolation, if you will. We see people, but we're not able to hug, as I mentioned earlier. So just faith, truly, because I know that there is much better to come. I know that we will all get through this because of my faith. And I know that God has so much in store for me and for others. So I think that's the number one thing. Other things that are really helping me get through this time is the little bitty things, which is celebrations, even though they're virtual celebrations. And as I mentioned, I shared and participated in two virtual celebrations this past weekend. One for a high schooler that I don't know that well. She goes to my church, but it was for me. I wanted to be able to share in that joy with her and her family, to give them that piece of joy. Because I think, as I said earlier, I think for our children and our youth, they feel, I believe, many of them, that this is something that's very significant in their life has been taken away. And to help them get through it, I want to make sure that they know that they are special. They really are special. And there's so many of us adults and fellow, youth that are wanting each of them to get through this, and we're going to help each other get through this. So celebrating each other with even the small little things, whether that's a promotion at your job, you got a job, celebrating those things just to say hi. To me, that's a celebration. Other ways is helping to provide mentorship. I still do provide mentorship. I have several mentees that I have that through this pandemic, I still meet with them. Some of them every week, others every 2 weeks. So I think that's very important, because I think despite whatever it is your career path is, I would highly, highly, highly recommend always have a mentor, because it's always great to bounce things off of someone and to get some guidance potentially from them, how they dealt with things. It's not necessarily means that's the way that you should go, but I think it's always helpful to have that mentorship throughout life. The next thing is kind of to go along with the mentoring is coaching. I'm also a life coach. I'm in the training for that. I was selected among the Department of Homeland Security to complete a coaching. It's a year-long coaching training. So even right now, I have coaching clients that I have, I'm coaching them primarily about their job, about things that they're trying to accomplish with their job, but we can coach on a very array of topics. That's because life, home life as well as work life, it really blends together. So with that, we can actually coach on a whole gamut of various things. So I say coaching is actually another aspect that can really help you get through this time as well, helping the person solve their own problems in many instances. And I also share checking on each other, whether that be checking on the youth, checking on the elderly, and all of those in between. Just a simple phone call. It doesn't even have to be virtual, meaning it doesn't have to be where I can see you. It can be just a phone call, just to say hi. And I think the thought, and you've probably heard the phrase, or know the phrase, it's the thought that counts. And I think it's sometimes if you reach out to someone, even if it's out of the blue, you haven't talked to them in a while, but you have their number, reaching out, and that can make their day, and oftentimes even make their week. So just maintaining that sense of connectedness during this time can go a very, very long way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I definitely can relate to you with respect to the faith, because that is, what I have taken from, college. I've taken that from my parents, and that faith is just all things are possible, right? With faith in God. And so I appreciate hearing a lot of the people that I've interviewed speak to that, and that presence and that perseverance and that community. And I also can connect with your reflection about the mentors and the mentee. I definitely have had a lot of mentees, meaning people that I've worked with, but I've really, really benefited from my mentors, those coaches, those principals, and I think we need to definitely take advantage of those. Even within our chapter, we have so many exciting leaders with so many different fields. I know I appreciate our membership services committee, because that gives us an opportunity to fellowship with each other and connect and grow and learn about each other. And so, yeah, I thank you for that. So mentoring and coaching, I definitely agree and affirm all of those really good ideas. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
then our last question, we've talked about the hardest thing. We've talked about how you maintain a positive kind of a demeanor and through it all. What kind of suggestions do you have for parents, and that you're a parent, so maybe you can share some of the things that you're saying and pouring into your own children, or maybe what are you thinking and sharing with other parents as you are kind of relating or sharing stories of struggles and triumphs during this time? I like that you are participating in a lot of virtual events and connecting still, and then being creative and stepping outside of maybe the norm to continue to connect with other students and mentors and mentees. What advice can you share? You have already given a lot. What else I can say can you share to inspire, encourage, or motivate parents? Because I know that the role of a parent is really difficult. You're afraid, and you're afraid for the mental well-being of your children right now,
Absolutely.
as well as the grief that they're experiencing, like you said earlier. And then, what about the students? What are you saying to your children?
Well, first off, let me speak to the parents. I think even during this time, it's difficult because I think children, particularly, they're looking up to their parents to know, what do we do during this crisis? As you know, this is a pandemic which hasn't occurred since 1918, and no one really knows how to deal with this. But our youth are going to look up to the adults, as they should, to determine what is the next step. What should I do? What should they do? So collectively, I just want to reiterate again, we all will get through this. But what I will say to the parents is, remain vigilant during this time. Remain vigilant, determined, and stay focused. And I always like to use the word advocate, because as a nurse, you're always your patient's advocate for medical care, for continuation of care, whatever that may be, whatever continuum that patient is on. So just as parents, continue to be vigilant and be an advocate for your child. And I say that because even during this pandemic time, I think for me, that community health piece of me always comes out, where you're always looking at what are the resources in a community that can really help, whether that be you further help your community and help others. Because I'm always about sharing of resources, sharing of wealth, to make the overall community better. So always be an advocate for your child, and in that, making sure that you have the knowledge and the information that's needed. Find out what resources are available in your county where you live, that can really help you and your child during this time, or just any time for that matter. So always make sure that you are connected. And you can find out those types of resources through organizations like Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, or other community type organizations. Find out what resources are available. Challenges will come, as you can see by virtue of the state that we're in right now. Challenges will come, but do know that challenges, I believe, are really a stepping stone to your higher calling. And even though it hurts while you're going through it, and even during this time, it hurts. It hurts, whether that may be, you're jobless for a short period of time. Maybe you're depleting your financial resources. But I would encourage, continue to have the faith, and just know that challenge will make you stronger. And that's really the same advice that I'll give to our youth as well. Is this is a trying time, but I believe that the trying nature of this will really help them be stronger in the end. In the end, they're going to be stronger for it. But encouraging each of them, and parents and youth, to remain vigilant, stay connected, remain connected with each other. That's very, very important, that you stay connected, because that actually goes into that overall well-being, your personal well-being, your community well-being, all of that. So that's a little advice that I would actually share, is that disappointments and setbacks, they're always going to be there, but they're temporary. When you're in them, it feels like it's forever. It feels like it's forever. But believe it or not, they are temporary, and you will continue to get through this. So stay uplifted, stay encouraged, make that connectedness to your faith, and stay connected with each other.
Thank you. That is just beautiful. I love the messages, so insightful, so community oriented, which is clearly as a result of
Mm-hmm.
all the things that you're involved in. And I love the message of just staying connected. And that segues a perfect ending to what the mission and vision of Jeneen cares: caring, achieving, restoring, empowering, and supporting. That's really what it's all about. We're
That
doing
is
that with a
awesome.
laser-like focus on our minority populations, because our county data and the data across the country just resoundingly has that message of disproportionality and how we need to close some of our gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're being inclusive of all. And we believe in with Jeneen C.A.R.E.S that it takes a village, and so everybody's a part of that village, is whether you're a minority or not. And so we have the motto of one community connected,
Okay.
in that we want to ensure that we're all working together, whether that's the different sorority and fraternities working together, whether that's the different demographics working together. I just think that that village concept comes from all in order to accomplish that. And so I'm just trying to, as a new resident for about 3 years here in Frederick, 4 years, just trying to take advantage of what I'm seeing in so many different places as
Mm-hmm.
legacy leaders, and trying to connect all of us together to
Right.
be able to share and encourage each other, learn from each other, and grow. So Dr. Kidd, I thank you for your inspiration of me. I thank you for
Thank
your
you.
support with my daughter and her encouragement that you give her, and showing up and
Absolutely.
support. I appreciate you as a woman, as a child of God, and as a sorority sister. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for your time today. Audience, thank you for your patience with us as I am trying to, capture our legacy leaders who have, schedules that encompass not just their day jobs that they collect a check from, but they're also doing a lot of community work. And so when they give me a moment, I take advantage of that moment and I show up and I steal that little bit of time just to make sure that I can be a blessing to others as they speak through their experiences, to show just the lesson of resilience, connection, and community, which is what restorative practices is all about. Restorative practices teaches us to, one, focus on building community through the power of relationships, and two, to restore and repair relationships when conflict occurs. We focus
Okay.
majority on the building of community through 80% of the time doing things with people. So that's with your family, with your friends, with your sorority sisters, with the people you work with. And then the other 20% is realizing that there is no family, there is no organization, no sisterhood without conflict. And if we
Right.
spend that time proactively in the beginning working on relationships, then we come to those little speed bumps in the road called conflict, or we have to manage the tension, whether it comes from a place of just tiredness or frustration because we're all working so hard, that we allow that healthy healing through conversation and, like you said, through connection. Just as we would with our family, we do it with organizations. And so that's what restorative practices is. I'm so
Okay.
passionate about the work that I'm doing and the training that I've had through the International Institute of Restorative Practices, and me being in
Mm.
Montgomery County, and now being blessed with the opportunity to be in central office and student services with the job title of Achievement Specialist for School Culture, where my primary focus is restorative practices. And I'm like, this
That
is
is
who I've
awesome.
been. And
That
so
is.
what a blessing that I have to be able to share the message through people in our community, at the same time celebrating us and all that we're doing in our community and empowering others. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing in that experience with me of being a legacy leader, building up other legacy leaders, learning from other legacy leaders. And so please, if you have recommendations for other people that you want me to celebrate, please send them my way. Is
Will
there a
do.
website, since you're in the public health field, that you want to direct our audience to in terms of like the public health aspects of it? What are you looking up to keep
Absolutely.
aware? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And let me say this before I lose my train of thought. Thank you, Jeneen C.A.R.E.S, for doing what you're doing in the community. As you said, very short period of time, but you are doing amazing work in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
I would encourage people, if you're interested in the public health service, go to usphs.gov, usphs.gov, and you can get information about the United States Public Health Service.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your time, your talent, and your gifts that you're sharing with us. In such a short time, I've learned so much about you. I've learned strategies to be able to share with others. So thank you for your time today. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you much.